The SAT and the ACT. You probably heard about these tests somewhere, as they're the most talked about tests in the world, and they can significantly impact your college admissions journey, positively and negatively. Typically, students who prepare for these tests rely on old, giant textbooks, believing they are learning. But what if I told you that the way students prepare for the ACT and the SAT is about to be flipped on its head? Today, I'm talking with Arun Khemani, the mastermind behind Cracked, a startup that's not just helping students study smarter, but disrupting a $1 billion test prep game. From seeing firsthand on how his brother was able to improve his test scores through better study preparation, he is now leading an edtech revolution. Arun's journey is all about hustle, innovation, and rewriting the rules. If you want to know about how to turn passion for education into a startup that really changes lives, you're in the right place. Let's get into it.
All right. So thank you, Arun, for meeting with me today on the podcast. And Arun, just can you introduce yourself and your business?
Yeah, for sure. So my name's Arun. I grew up here in Cali. I went out to school in Boston, and I'm building this thing called Cracked. It's a SAT and ACT prep platform that's actually affordable and is actually effective because students prepare every single day instead of going to a tutor once a week.
Hmm. Okay. And so why did you start Cracked in the first place?
Yeah, so we had noticed that people pay hundreds an hour for tutoring, especially out in this area. And the average cost is $70 an hour for SAT tutoring. And it really isn't effective to prepare once a week, come home. Nobody does the homework that they're supposed to do for the next class and just shows up to the next class, maybe doing it right before or not doing it at all. And you
Hmm.
don't learn anything. So for my brother, my parents were paying 150 an hour for ACT tutoring.
Hmm.
And his score wasn't improving because he would go once a week, come home, basically, not do too much, and then go again. But
Hmm.
what really helped was one of my co-founders, Aniket. He got a perfect score on the ACT,
Hmm.
so he basically explained the importance to my brother, and he would help him via text. So instead of getting this expensive tutor that helps him once a week, he was
Hmm.
able to text him every single day,
Hmm.
explain concepts to him, and help him out. And that really helped my brother like lock in and also understand those different
Hmm.
concepts. And then we realized that that model can be replicated for very cheap for
Hmm.
every student, where you're able to text someone 24/7
Hmm.
and also kind of have other resources to help you.
Hmm. Okay. So you started this based on your brother and you took his experiences. So what's different about Cracked than a regular tutor, would you say?
Yeah, so I'd say the main thing is that you have something to help you 24/7. So
Hmm.
literally anytime you have a question, just
Hmm.
it's kind of a replacement for a really, really smart friend
Hmm.
who's also like 24/7 available. So you
Hmm.
have someone you can text them anytime. And yeah, and they'll answer 24/7. And kind of the other thing that really stood out, and another reason why we started Cracked when we started Cracked was
Hmm.
because the SAT and ACT went digital. So as
Hmm.
soon as the SAT went digital in March of 2024, all the
Hmm.
old resources were irrelevant because they
Hmm.
changed the format, they changed the style of questions. And
Hmm.
now, since it was on a computer, it made more sense to
Hmm.
also practice on your computer instead of
Hmm.
uh, practicing on your computer and then taking a test on paper because that doesn't
Hmm.
really make sense. But since the test is also on the computer, it made sense. So we built out a platform, we built out a question bank, we built out mock exams, we
Hmm.
built out a ton of resources like
Hmm.
study schedule creators. You can learn about Desmos since that's basically a cheat
Hmm.
code to getting 800 on the SAT, math,
Hmm.
and all these other tools that basically allow people to get that
Hmm.
human help plus
Hmm.
a platform which
Hmm.
no one else is doing,
Hmm.
mainly because they don't think it's scalable or they don't want to spend more
Hmm.
on providing better help.
All right. And I want to talk a bit about I want to talk a bit about the about your marketing. So I've followed your Instagram and I've been seeing the videos and they're actually super helpful. So right now I'm studying for the SAT myself. And whenever I'm like struggling on a topic on math, I go to your page, I see something Desmos hacks, and I think my score just like went up at least 30 points just by watching some of those videos. Like one of those, I didn't know about regressions on Desmos until I watched those videos. So why'd you start making those kind of videos online first?
Yeah, so those Desmos edits, we actually found these two high schoolers. Shout out Sahil and Danielle,
Mhm.
and basically they were creating this page. It's
Mhm.
called SD SAT Prep, and they were just doing it for college and doing it to help people out with the SAT.
Mhm.
So we came across them.
Mhm.
I think they were trying to do some kind of like they were like commenting on our post, or we just kind of found their page,
mm,
hit them up, and they decided to join Cracked and start a
mm,
page like that for Cracked. And
mm,
kind of the reason is these Desmos edits not only
mm,
show exactly how to solve certain problems with Desmos, which
mm,
can literally help you just
mm,
solve questions without fully understanding the concept or solve them a lot faster, but it also gets people interested. So the
mm,
main thing is we used to do a lot of explainer videos, like here are 3 tips, or let me
mm,
explain to you
mm,
what a
mm,
quadratic function
mm,
is, or like things
mm,
like that. But
mm,
people watch that and they just skip over it. And like the people who really are motivated, they'll watch it. But the people
mm,
who aren't motivated, they aren't going to watch those type of videos. So the type
mm,
of videos that will get people to be
mm,
motivated enough to take action on preparing for the SAT,
mm,
which is the main part, are the type of videos that are more interesting,
mm,
like these like brain rot Desmos edits, like is what we
mm,
call them.
mm.
But yeah, those type of videos really pique people's interest, and they're like, "Damn, I can solve this problem in literally 5 seconds with Desmos. I
Yeah.
have to learn how to."
Yeah, I think that's what just gives it a big cheat code for all students. Because like even if you don't know how to do the problems, if you know how to like type numbers into a calculator, like automatically you're gonna get the question right.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and the thing is, like, I'm glad the SAT did this because it,
Yeah.
you do not need to like. It's important to understand the fundamentals of these concepts if
Yeah.
you want to do something
Mm,
related to math or
mm,
physics or anything like that in the future.
mm,
However, you don't need to know like
mm,
exactly memorize like exactly all these
mm,
formulas. The tools like this are out there and are only getting better.
mm. Okay. And so let's say I'm a student, like I'm gonna give myself an example. I'm a student right now. I'm about to be a junior in high school, and I'm right now preparing for the SAT. And I've taken AP classes, I've taken advanced classes since high school. How do you think I should effectively prepare for the SAT, would you say?
Yeah, so since you have a strong, you know, base,
Mm,
then I mean the process is pretty simple. The hardest part is the consistency,
mm,
but the process is pretty much take a
mm,
practice test on Blue Book, get your scores, create a
mm,
study schedule. I mean, and that's something that we built out really early on Crack because
mm,
I mean that was just the most helpful thing where you just enter in your Blue Book scores. It
mm,
gives you a study schedule. But yeah,
mm,
create a study schedule. Make sure you're just focusing on your weak areas.
mm,
And one thing that's really important that
mm,
nobody actually does is
mm,
when you get a problem wrong,
mm,
don't move on until you fully understand
mm,
exactly how to do that problem. And
mm,
like this can be really silly sometimes. Like if you get some really hard math problem wrong,
mm,
it might literally take like a few days to understand how
mm,
to do that problem
mm,
because there might be other fundamentals that are missing.
mm,
But for math specifically, like it's best to just take those few days, learn the concepts from the beginning, and to not move on until
mm,
you fully understand how to do that problem. And it's a very simple thing. It's nothing
mm,
special, but it's just actually doing that
mm,
is what most people don't do. And
mm,
then for reading and writing, one of the main things is simply to read every day. A
mm,
lot of us, especially people who are typically good at math,
mm,
probably don't read that much.
mm,
So the main thing that we try to recommend and that we try to push, and like we created this like free reading tool on Crack the
mm,
Slash Reading, which is basically something that helps generate articles. But basically, what we do
mm,
and what we
mm,
tell people to do is just read
mm,
something. It could literally
mm,
be anything. It could be like a manga or like or
mm,
whatever, like anything that you like.
mm,
Um, and and yeah, just like read something every single day and try to test your reading comprehension
mm,
about exactly what you just read. Because the main thing that people struggle with, and this is what I struggle with too, is
mm.
that after you read a passage, then you feel like you have to reread the
Yeah,
passage because it
same
takes a
here.
few times to like right. It
Yeah,
takes a few times to like
exactly.
get in your head.
I'm in the same boat right now.
Yeah, so like the best thing to do there is to just really practice reading every single day and practice reading like longer texts
Mm,
and testing your reading comprehension because eventually you'll get to the point you just read something and you remember exactly what you read and understand exactly what you read, and
mm,
that's literally the entire reading section.
mm. Okay, and so Crack specializes in both the ACT and the SAT. So I have a few viewers in India, and they probably don't know between these two tests. So could you just say like the difference between the SAT and the ACT real quick?
Yeah, so the ACT has a science section as well,
Mm,
which is now optional on the digital
mm,
ACT. The
mm,
SAT has half math and half reading and writing, but the
mm,
ACT has, well, with the science section, it has 1/4 reading, 1/4
mm,
English, one
mm,
fourth math, 1/4
mm,
science. So it's a lot less math in that way.
mm,
The other thing that's kind of notable about the ACT is that it's very fast paced. So there's
mm,
more questions, but because of that, the questions take less time to
mm,
solve.
mm,
So if you're more inclined to something like that, it could be good. I would just say like everyone should well, if you're not seeing early success with
Mm,
one test, then you should just take the other test.
mm,
Like if you take one test and maybe you're stuck at like
mm,
1100s or 1200s and you've taken a few, then
mm,
you might as well take the other test and just see how you do. And if there's a significant difference, then
mm,
maybe your learning style or something like that is something interesting. And also, if
mm,
you don't want too much math, then
mm.
pick the ACT as well.
Yeah. Yeah, so practically the main difference between those two tests are the science, that ACT has science, and also their grading scales are different, right? It's like from a, like, what's the grading scales for the ACT? It's still 36, right?
36, yeah.
Yeah, and then SAT is up to 1600.
Yeah.
So do you think if you get a perfect 36 or a perfect 1600 gives you a big leg up in college admissions?
Yeah, I mean, so okay, so during COVID,
Mm,
when all these tests, all the colleges went test optional,
mm,
and people kind of stopped taking these tests.
mm,
Some schools are like test blind, and
mm,
it kind of stayed that way for a bit, for a few years, and
mm,
then it started picking back up,
mm,
2023
mm,
and 2024 with the digital
mm,
tests.
mm,
Uh, and then at that point, like kind of one of the catalysts was Dartmouth released a study that a lot
mm,
of other schools like MIT and stuff cited, which
mm,
was basically that they found that the
mm,
students who did well on the SAT were
mm,
a better indicator of success than someone who had a high GPA. And now,
mm,
like this, it might not make that much like fundamental sense, and it might not be like 100% true, but there is some truth to it. Where if you do really well in the SAT, you'll probably do well in college, and I think that's for a number of reasons. And like this is academically only,
mm,
but I think it's mainly because if you can spend the time
mm,
and dedicate yourself to like min
mm,
maxing this test and to learning all the concepts that are required and to like really grinding and just and actually getting a really high score on this test,
mm,
then you probably have the discipline, work ethic, and
mm,
general knowledge to
mm.
do well in school.
Exactly. And now I want to talk a bit about your platform. So can you walk us through your early days? Like how do you and your co-founders go from tutoring for free to building a tech platform that's getting a lot of new clients every day?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Mm,
So early on, in 2023, we actually made SAT Discord, and this
mm,
was January of 2023. Our
mm,
thought was that we would run these boot camps. That would be
mm,
like 2 week boot camps. We
mm,
would get hundreds of students in there, so we can
mm,
charge a very low price.
mm,
And it's kind of an affordable way to prep. And it was always this model of
mm,
text tutoring,
mm,
and that was kind of what the thesis of everything was
mm,
based on. That you can
mm,
get adequate help from just asking your questions via
mm,
text,
mm,
instead of having to call, because that just
mm,
takes up a lot of time. And that's why it becomes so
mm,
expensive. So if you can just
mm,
text and get direct answers to your questions, then you're set. So we started building that out in 2023. We
mm,
kind of kept it on the back burner. I mean, we were in college. I was working on building other stuff, and
mm,
so were my friends. And then in 2024, when we heard the test was going digital, we were like, okay, this is the perfect time for an online
mm,
platform, online community, and this is something that we had done before. In high
mm,
school, we had built a lot of communities,
mm,
and this is something that we knew how to do. So that's kind of where the idea came
mm,
about
mm,
building the platform and building the community. And then that summer, we really grinded and really
mm,
tutored everyone for free. So we
mm,
would build up our Discord community. We would use like socials to get people in,
mm,
also word of mouth, Reddit,
mm, mm,
um, Discord, and all those type of things to
mm,
get students to
mm,
the community. It was like free tutoring 24/7. You just ask us questions anytime.
mm,
And we leveraged Anikit's success with the perfect ACT score.
mm,
And yeah, we leveraged that, and we were just tutoring for free. So I think
mm,
that was one thing that gave us a leg up and gave us
mm,
a strong community early on, was that we were able to build a bond with a lot of different people,
mm,
a lot of different ambitious students.
mm,
And yeah, so that really helped. And then when
mm,
August came around, that's when our platform was ready.
mm,
Built up the question bank, built
mm,
up other features like mock exams and other
mm,
features on the platform.
mm,
So August is when we launched it,
mm,
and that's when we started. And around like August 3rd is when we started posting like
mm,
daily videos on Instagram and TikTok.
mm,
And then we got some traction from there.
mm,
And people started joining our Discord,
mm,
and that's really been one of our biggest moats, and which is one of the core parts of Cracked, is that we have a community
mm,
that literally runs by itself at this point, in the
mm,
sense that people join the community not for Cracked, like not for our platform even. It's not even it's a cracked Discord, but it's not even about cracked at this point. It's
Mm,
more about people just want to be chatting with other people who are also trying to do cool stuff. So
mm,
there's a lot of people in there trying to start crazy things. A lot of people in there have joined Cracked as well,
mm,
and help out with a lot of different things. And
yeah.
yeah, there's just a lot of really smart people in
Mm,
the Discord. So I think people want to be around those kind of people,
mm.
just naturally gravitate to the community.
Yeah, I mean, I'm part of that Discord server too, and I definitely like the advice I've been getting in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it's like it kind of gives you some motivation sometimes. Like I see some of the score boosts and everything in there, and like I'm like, oh God, if they're able to do it, I gotta be able to do it too.
Yeah, bro, any score boost is possible. Someone from a
Yeah.
940 to a 1600, 2 months
Two
of practice.
months,
Yeah,
two
2 months,
months.
940 to 1600. So like whenever someone tells me like, oh, what's the highest score you think I can get? I'm just like, you can't get a 1600. Like,
It's possible. You just got to put the work in.
yep,
Yeah.
exactly.
All right. And what were the biggest technical or operational hurdles in the first 6 months, and how did you overcome them?
Yeah. So we had never built something like this
Mm,
before.
mm,
Both of my other co-founders come from a CS
mm,
background,
mm,
but no one had built like a platform like this before, and I think that's true for a lot of people who graduate
mm,
with a CS degree as well.
mm,
So yeah, so it was something new. It was something to learn.
mm,
Another hurdle was building out a question bank.
mm,
We had talked to some people who had built out question banks for different tests, and they told us that you have to have 9 full-time people, and it will take like 1 to 2 years to build out this question bank. And I was just like, it's just not going to take that long. But it was
mm,
definitely a lot of hard work, and it's definitely
mm,
it, it's actually interesting because I don't think it's something that resources can just fix. So there's other platforms in different spaces and even in
mm,
similar spaces that
mm,
have question banks that are not perfect. So like
mm,
it seems kind of silly, but it's pretty hard actually to get to create perfect SAT and ACT
mm,
questions. And I'm sure with any other test like MCAT area as well, it's pretty
mm,
hard to. And that's why they have these big teams and that's why they take a lot of time. Um,
mm,
and the reason is because there's a lot of nuance to these
mm,
questions, and it's one of those tasks
mm,
that
mm,
requires a lot of concentration and brain power, and it's
mm,
very hard to
mm,
outsource completely, and it just requires a
mm,
lot of care. Like we've brought on the most qualified people that you can think of to try to create SAT questions,
mm,
um, and there's still inaccuracies
mm,
in the question. So that's something that we had to kind of pick up ourselves in the beginning for
mm,
sure. And now we've been able to find a few really, really caring and attention to detail
mm,
um, type people who are able to manage most of the process. But originally, that was one of the biggest struggles was creating these test questions. And you would think you could just GPT it or something like that,
mm,
and that will take you half of the way there. And now it's
mm,
gotten better. It'll take you if you have the right examples and the perfect prompting, it'll take you 70-80% of the way there. But the problem with SAT and ACT questions being slightly inaccurate is
mm,
that if as a student, if you find that one of them is slightly inaccurate, then you don't know,
mm,
like for other questions that you get wrong, whether
mm,
you actually are getting them wrong, especially if you don't understand it, if you're getting it wrong or if there's some inaccuracy. So that was something that we've tried to focus heavy on. And of course, we've still had in the past like
mm,
mistakes on problems or like some typos or things like that.
mm,
Or like some questions can be made better. And that's just bound to happen. But again, kind of coming back to our community, like people
mm,
will know about that immediately and then we're able to fix it immediately.
mm.
And yeah, that's just been kind of our superpower.
Yeah. I mean, the question bank I feel like is the most important part because so do you use the SAT question bank provided by College Board or do you take the questions from there and then you like make your own questions or what's the process of making those questions? Like you say, use AI a little bit and you have
We have
tutors
to
make.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. We have to make our own. It's like copyright, and also like
Mm,
if we just take their questions, like it doesn't add more questions that students can use. It
mm,
puts it in a better like UX because
mm,
like the College Board question bank is in a really bad UX, and
mm,
it could definitely use an update.
mm,
But it like it would put in a better UX, but creating more
mm,
questions just solves the problem of not having
mm,
enough resources
mm,
to prepare for the test, especially if someone's preparing for like over a month, then you can definitely run out of like all the hard
mm,
questions and
mm,
and like a lot of the mock exams and stuff like that.
mm,
So yeah, so we created the questions ourselves.
mm,
We use GPT to help generate like passages and stuff, but it's just a lot needs to be manually done and
mm,
redone. It is getting better though. So we're trying to build out some
mm,
systems to automate the process a bit more,
mm,
but it's not at the point where you can
mm,
just gen a question and it's
mm,
perfect 100% of the time. I mean, ChatGPT hallucinates about like simple stuff too, even
mm,
at the highest level of prompting. And this is just
mm,
something that you can't really have
mm,
hallucinations for. So I think for at least the time being, there has to be people in the process who have really, really high attention to detail, obviously very strong understanding of the SAT and ACT and have scored like at least 50 plus.
mm.
Um, and yeah.
Okay. All right. And sorry. All right. So if I look at other test prep platforms, like for example, Ace Leader, they use more AI chatbots, but Crack still has a human touch in it. Why do you choose to make that choice, and what have you learned from that?
The very beginning, AI chatbot at the moment and focus on just human tutoring. And the idea was for a few reasons. Well, in the beginning, like the chatbots weren't as good as well.
Mm,
They've obviously gotten better over time, but kind of the reason for focusing on this was
mm,
that talking to a human isn't just about getting better explanations for questions, more human like explanations for
mm,
where you're stuck on, and more human like responses. It
mm,
wasn't just about that. It was also about if there's an actual person keeping you accountable, like that's actually keeping you accountable. Um, if there's like a chatbot that you're talking to ask questions, that's not actually keeping you accountable.
mm,
And I think the reality is that like 90% of preparing for these tests
mm,
is about consistency, motivation, and discipline. You
mm,
can learn anything. I mean, it's the same with any topic in the world. Like
mm,
you can learn pretty much like 90% of what you need to know
mm,
just by just if you're disciplined and if you put in the work and if you use the resources available online and things like that. So we just found that as a core part for students who want that
mm,
um extra
mm,
accountability and motivation. It's just I think till the end of time, like
mm,
there won't be a replacement to
mm,
like a friend keeping you accountable. And
mm,
that's just one of the biggest motivators that you can
mm,
have. That's like when you go to the gym, like if you go to the gym with a friend, you'll be more competitive and more
mm,
hyped up. And that's why a lot of like startups these days will like everyone will live together because everyone keeps each other more accountable and things like that.
mm,
I think that was kind of the idea behind there. And
mm,
now we've implemented a chatbot which helps solve question like which helps solve like questions that you have about SAT problems. So you can drop in like a math screenshot, and this is still in very early beta. So it can solve about 40% of the questions, but
mm,
we've created this thing where if you drop in like a screenshot of a math problem, it will solve it using Desmos,
mm,
and it will show you like the functions in Desmos
mm,
that are required to solve it. It works like for 40% of the time right now. So we're trying to improve that, but yeah, I think that's the main purpose of a chatbot is like if you want to get answers to those specific questions or specific
mm,
topic instantly, then you can do
mm,
that. But if you want if you want to talk to like a friend, that's what the
mm.
tutors are for.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely agree with that because like I've been talking to a lot of AI founders and they keep on saying the same things that just keep it human, like be simple. There has to always be a human touch in anything you do, and I feel like Crack absolutely gets that right on the spot.
Thank you. Yeah, and
Yeah.
we also felt like early on, like people were using a chatbot for the sake of
Mm,
like maybe this is for the investors, but it was for the sake of saying that they're using AI. And like
mm,
the thing is, like you would rather talk to a human than you would to a chatbot, right?
exactly.
So
Mm,
why not just take the extra expense? And like it's not even that much, but why not take the extra expense of
mm,
time and energy to actually respond to people
mm,
rather than have them talk to a chatbot? Because like they would rather talk to a human than a chatbot, and it's definitely
mm,
possible, especially early on,
mm,
when things are at a smaller scale,
mm,
to talk to a human than a
mm,
chatbot. So
mm. Okay. And so in your platform, how do you measure student progress and success? Can you share any stories like the you have to jump from 940 to 1600? Right? Do you have any more anything like that?
yeah, so there was this guy. He had a really stacked like ECs,
Mm,
really great GPA.
mm,
He was at an 1170 though,
mm.
and yeah, using cracked, he got to a 1570, and then got into Stanford, and
Oh.
he got an 800 on SAT math, and that definitely helped. And I think and I mean, like there's countless stories of people going from like 1100s, 1200s to
Mm,
1500, 1550 plus.
mm,
But I think in all of these stories, like you have to be very motivated yourself as well. And I think actually what I've noticed is the people who are the most involved in the community and are most active in the community usually end up scoring the highest. And it's just because there's already people in there who've taken
mm,
the test who choose to stay in the community, even though it's just an SAT ACT community. Um, but there's people who choose to stay to help people out. So there's literally free help from people who've gone 50, 1550 plus.
mm,
If you're just willing to spend the time and ask questions and
mm,
chat with these people. And a lot of people are even down to like hop on VCs and for free and just help you out with whatever questions you have help on. So
mm,
it's really whoever is willing to take advantage of all the resources, even people who are paying for crack. Not everyone takes full advantage of the resources. There's a lot of people who are on who have access to the one-on-one tutors
mm,
who don't take advantage of it every single day. So
mm,
it depends. And like we're trying to do a few things to encourage people to take more advantage of all the resources.
mm.
But currently, like people who are going out of their way to take advantage of resources will get a good score.
Yeah. I definitely feel like that because the community in Cracked is definitely like is really wholesome, and everyone there is there to help you. They're not like there to like try to get an extra dollar out of you or anything. No, they're like there to help you learn and everything. I feel like that's a great
Yeah,
thing I've seen. Because if you look at like other like subreddit platforms and everything, like those guys are there. Like I don't feel like I don't get the same connection as I do while talking on a Discord channel for some reason.
yeah. No,
Mm,
that's 100% true. And
mm.
wait, so like, what would you feel is like the difference between, or like, what would you say you would feel like asking these type of questions on Reddit, or like, what do you think like the
Yeah.
difference in
So
the type of
first of all,
responses are?
yeah, on Reddit, I feel like the everything sounds pretty like Reddit's got full of bots. I feel like that's the first thing. Like too many bots on Reddit. Like I see like bots like I asked a question on the Reddit server like one time before I heard about crack, and then like a bot literally responded to me and gave me like an AI generated answer. I couldn't understand anything. Then I asked that same question on the crack Discord server. I understood it within like next in literally 2 sentences. So I feel like it's just a human
Yeah,
connection there.
there's yeah, no, that makes sense. That makes sense. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's there's some people that are like literally on like
Mm,
24/7, and
mm,
they get genuine joy out of just like sending a Desmos
mm,
screenshot as soon as possible. So
mm,
like it's kind of like a competition at this point. Like
mm.
there's like
Who can get
maybe
the
like
most hacks?
yeah, and like there's like 30, 40 people who like every time whoever's online, like whenever a
Mm,
question is posted, they just compete to like just send it first
mm,
and like send it and like have the best like the shortest Desmos.
mm,
The shortest way to solve a Desmos
mm,
to like
mm,
not just solving with Desmos.
mm. Do you think College Board made a good decision putting Desmos in the digital SAT?
Um Honestly, yeah, because I think it's like one step, I think it's like um a step in the right direction for like the
Mm,
future because
mm,
like over time I mean, we're just gonna have access to more and more tools. I mean, everyone uses GPT in school,
mm,
and I think just having access to tools
mm,
is like the real world. And you want people to have a
mm,
general understanding of things, but you also don't want to force that onto people who like don't really care about having like having like some like deep love for like math, for example. So I think overall it's a good step because having more access to tools is more similar to the real world. Oh wait, I think it's muted. Hello? Can you hear me? Okay. Wait, I can't hear you. Let's see, it's on my end.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you now.
Okay, so I'll just jump back on the question I was about to ask. All right, so what are some most common misconceptions students and parents have about standardized tests and prep about it? Like, for example, like parents think that you have to get a perfect 1600, you have to get a perfect 36. Is that true, or is that is that just a misconception?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say the people who retake the SAT after getting like a 1550 or higher, that's just for like the love of the game. It's not really It's not necessary. And you will see people who like they're like there was this one guy in the Discord who got a 1570, retook it, got a 1570 again, and retook it, got a 1570 again, and he was just like hella pissed. But yeah, like if you take it at that point, it's just for fun, honestly. So there's like different tiers for sure, like 1550 plus, you can that's like high enough for any school. And there are like specifics to that. Like like if you're going to like CS or something, you would also want like 800 math. This is for like the ultra competitive schools. And then yeah, just like as you kind of go through it, there's like different SAT scores that are kind of required, and all this stuff. I think people typically either check like Naviance or an alternative, or just like Google like the average, the median test score. And then of course it depends like what high school you go to because you're competing with your own high school as well. But yeah, after 1550 is for fun. Wait, it cut off again.
All right, I don't know what's going on, but all right.
All
So
good.
I was about to ask like how do you keep students engaged and motivated, especially with the gamified aspects of crack? Like I think I saw like there's like a streak, right? There's like a streak thing on crack, right?
There's like a penguin. So
Yeah,
like as you
penguin.
solve more questions, it like levels up. Yeah.
Yeah. So how do you keep the students engaged and motivated while doing that?
Yeah. So that's actually something that we're trying to look into more.
Mm,
The original idea of Cracked was
mm,
kind of like a Duolingo for SAT type thing, which
mm,
everyone and their mom is doing right now. But
mm,
basically,
mm,
the idea was if we make it really gamified, it'll motivate people. But
mm,
I don't think that's like it's not 1,000% true. Like it will help, but it honestly is not it's not the main thing that will help. So we decided to focus on just making the best resources and everything first because a lot of people kind of go from a gamified first approach, but then all the questions are like AI generated,
mm,
and then it's like there's no point in making gamified if your platform isn't like nearly perfect. So the focus has been to improve the platform and improve the tools as much as possible. So we have it there. Some people like it, but it's definitely not a core feature right now.
Oh,
We are bringing on this Duolingo animator right now, though, who will kind of make it a lot
mm,
more interesting and
mm,
a lot more fun.
mm,
And in the future, we have ideas
mm.
for making Coco, which is the penguin,
Yeah.
um, like a lot more relevant.
Hmm. So like
Yeah.
the Duolingo but bird light.
Yeah, like we have some plushies on the way. We have yeah, we have some really cool animations on the way.
Mm,
Some
mm,
short form videos
mm,
on the way and things like that. And I
mm,
think it helps in like later, but
mm,
for us, like we realized it was too early for us to care about it. And
mm,
we just wanted to care about having the best platform possible.
mm,
And I think it's something that you do kind of as
mm,
an extra for fun. And going back to your question, in terms of the relevance of that to motivation and engagement,
mm,
it will
mm,
engage some percentage of people who care about that. But currently, like most of our user base, most of the students who use Crack, if you're the type of student who is scrolling on social media and you watch SAT content, you're already in like the top like 20% of students. And
mm,
then on top of that, if you're choosing to join some SAT Discord and engage in that,
mm,
and if you're choosing to like a lot of students pay for Crack by themselves.
mm,
So if you're choosing to buy Crack or tell your parents like, can you buy me this SAT prep platform subscription, you're
mm,
already in the top some percentage of students. So
mm,
those type of students are the type of students
mm,
who care more about getting like a really great score than
mm,
they care as much about
mm.
something that looks like fun and
Yeah.
things like that. So that's kind of what we
Mm,
realized. So that's why we're like, let's
mm,
just make the best tool possible. And then we can kind of slowly roll in all these other
mm.
things.
Yeah. And so you're talking while you're building it, right? So while you're building it and right now, have you faced any resistance from traditional test prep companies or educators? Like, for example, like Princeton Prep, Kaplan, those kind of companies. Are you facing any resistance from them? And how do you respond to that?
Yeah, it's a good question. We get it quite a bit. In terms of like, I mean, in terms of like actual resistance,
Mm,
I wouldn't say there's like too much resistance from these test prep companies.
mm,
I think they very strongly believe in what they do. However, I do
mm,
think it's coming.
mm,
I have a really good example. There was this guy who I reached out to when this was March of 2024. So this
mm,
is like before we started building the platform when we're
mm,
ideating Cracked.
mm,
I talked to like 100 tutors, and I was just
mm,
trying to learn about their experience as tutoring student, the hardest thing to solve. So that's kind of why we built Cracked as well.
Mm,
But anyways, back to this guy. He runs this huge test prep
mm,
center in Asia,
mm,
and I wanted to chat with him about and tell him about Cracked and kind of get his thoughts about it, and also like learn more about his journey and what he's done.
mm,
He told me that he doesn't believe in what we're doing and the mission, and he doesn't believe in like platforms, and he believes in this traditional style of tutoring, which is fair. He's been doing this for like 30, 40 years. So then more recently, we had a student in Singapore who was at that tutoring center, and he did not like it at all. And his parents sent him there because I mean they've had a lot of successes, right?
mm,
But he didn't like it at all, and it wasn't working for him.
mm,
He started using crack because he saw it on TikTok.
mm,
I went out there and met him as well, but he saw it on TikTok, and yeah, so he started using cracked, and then his score jumped 200 points.
mm,
And I asked him like what changed because he was still stuck for a bit. And I asked him what changed, and he said he dropped that firm and he started using crack. And that firm also
mm,
cost him like 20 to 30x the amount that crack cost him. So like not only was he saving a lot of money, he was getting a better score, and he didn't have to go to like these tutoring sessions
mm,
once a week, or a few times a week.
mm,
So I think
mm,
the tutoring centers were more just kind of in denial, in a way,
mm,
and just did not believe in in something new. And this isn't all of them, but it's definitely some. Don't believe that you can do text tutoring and have a
mm,
platform and prepare for the SAT, but that's just not true. And they know that 90% of their job is keeping students accountable and motivated.
mm,
And there's other ways to do that rather than paying hundreds an hour, and going to
mm.
something once a week.
Yeah. All right. And my final question for you is this. So, where do you see crack in the next 3 to 5 years? What's your vision for the future of test prep? Are you going to expand more into like AP tests, for example, or expand more into like some other tests around the world? What's the future for crack?
Yeah, so that is something that we've spent a lot of time thinking about over the
Mm,
last few months.
mm,
And as we're going within SAT and building out more tools for ACT
mm,
and starting to grow within ACT,
mm,
it's there's a lot that's going to change in the world in the next few years. So it's really hard to know exactly where the world will be, but there's a few parts of the vision.
mm,
And one, the most obvious, is to help people out with other tests.
mm, mm,
So this exact same model of having a platform with everything that you need and having a community, and having a tutor that you can text 24/7 and live seminars twice a week,
mm,
for a few dollars a day is something that can definitely be replicated, for other tests like AP tests, MCAT,
mm,
potentially something kind of similar for college app help, and just
mm,
everything in that kind of ecosystem.
mm,
But honestly, like it's cool and all, but beyond this,
mm,
where like what I really see having the biggest impact, and what we've seen over time from the community and craft, is
mm,
that the community is everything.
mm,
The the way that all these students come together and talk about their 315 bench presses and
mm,
what they're eating and where they're traveling and what ECs they're doing and
mm,
all of that, is honestly the best part. And honestly, yeah, I think that is just one of the coolest things. And that's something that we're looking to grow. Is just making sure that any student with high ambitions knows that there's other students with high
mm,
ambitions here, and they know that there's a place where they can find like-minded people,
mm,
and to really build out the community that way and build out tools for them, whether it's something to learn about whatever they're interested in learning,
mm,
whether it's
mm,
something to help them with if they want to start like any business endeavors, something to help them with that, or if they want to learn about guitar, like
yeah,
help them learn pretty much anything.
mm,
And then we also like we have
mm,
plushies coming. We want to
yeah,
open up cool cafes, launch cool
mm,
games,
mm,
watch cool animes or movies,
Yeah,
and yeah,
definitely.
things like that down the line.
Yeah. Yeah. So thank you, everyone, for your time. I definitely enjoyed our conversation.
Thank you very much.